Hi, I'm Dr. Chuck Betters. You know, oftentimes it grieves my heart when I see and hear of young people who marry because they love each other. And I put that in quotes because honestly and truly, that's not the only grounds for getting married. Listen to this question. My husband and I have only been married for 6 months. In order to save money to buy a house of our own, we decided to live with his parents for a while. It seemed like a good idea in the beginning, but now it is causing a lot of tension. I feel like my husband cares more about being a good son to his mom than a good wife to me. His mother tells me all the time that she hopes we never move out and that it would kill her for her son to leave. I feel like I am stuck. What should I do? As I read this question, I thought to myself, well, first thing that should have been done is adequate premarital counseling, because this couple was nowhere near being ready to marry, even though they may have loved each other. They did not plan, and they are still not planning well. For example, where is it written that a house is necessary right now? Why do you feel that just because you got married, you have to buy a house? If you're financially not able to make those provisions before you get married, then either you downgrade your understanding of what we are going to live in or where we're going to live, or you wait. But you don't simply move in with his parents or your parents in order to save money. These are decisions that are made premaritally. You have to make these decisions before you walk down the aisle, before you say, I do. Now, the reason I say that is because Genesis chapter 2 is God's blueprint for marriage. He's never changed this. He's never rescinded this. He has never, ever edited this mandate from Genesis 2:24. It says, for this cause shall a man leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife, and they two shall become one. So there's that leaving and that cleaving and that weaving that constitutes God's blueprint for marriage. Now, leaving does not necessarily mean geographically, but it means, I think even more acutely, we leave our parents emotionally. And oftentimes that means we must leave them geographically, because those relational bonds between a man and his mother, a woman and her father, they have to be superseded, if you will. They have to be changed because the direction of your commitments have to be to one another and not to your family. That is the priority of a man's relationship to his mother needs to become secondary to a man's relationship to his wife, and vice versa when it comes to a woman and her father. You can't do that when you are geographically in the same home, when you're bound by the standards of that particular home, and especially if it's for the purpose of saving money. Well, you know, money's important. It's important for us to be able to provide for our families. In fact, it says that a man who fails to provide for his family has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever, worse than an infidel. The scripture squarely lays on the shoulders of the man of the house the responsibility of making the provisions for his family and for their protection. And couples who refuse to do this, couples who make financial decisions based on two incomes, based on whether or not they're going to live with their with their parents, whether or not they're going to make those decisions in the wrong spirit or the right spirit, cannot be, if you will, insulated against the overall understanding that to make a commitment to marriage means you're making a financial commitment to each other as well. And so in this question, I see very little planning. It says, we decided to live with his parents. Well, you said it. We decided. You made the decision as well as him. Well, now that things aren't going well, you're ready to bail. And that involves, I think, very, very poor planning. You said for a while. We planned to live with his parents for a while. How long? What's a while? A couple of days? A couple of months? Now, we had our children, our adult children, moved in with us on several occasions, but they did so with a very limited scope. Their homes were being built. They knew that they were only going to be living in our home for a couple of months. I see nothing wrong with that. But it's when we make these commitments without planning, without careful planning, that tensions begin to develop. You mentioned those tensions. What kind of tension? Well, the thing you need to understand is this is not your home. This is his mother's home. This is her turf. And you do not have the right to set the temperature in their home. It's their home. It belongs to them. You have to live according to their understanding of how families are supposed to function and not yours. You say you feel stuck. That's because there is no plan. There's no plan moving forward. You're not looking for a way to undo the bad choices that you've already made. So planning, I think, is extremely critical. I would advise you to move out as soon as you possibly can, but not out of anger. If you move out of anger, then you've destroyed relationships and you leave those relationships in your wake. But according to a biblical model of leaving and cleaving and weaving, if that's the understanding by which you make the choice to leave, then I think that's a good reason for you to leave as soon as you possibly can. So you've made bad choices along the way. You've made decisions along the way that you're now paying for. And you have to step back, take a deep breath, and look at the whole situation and ask yourselves, what can we now do to develop a plan or a strategy for moving out and establishing our own home? I hope this helps.